so allow the very same people that you have problem with to come in this life, and all of them, they come with one solution to tell us what to do in our own country. And I'll bet you my last dollar, if you go to Nigeria, they will never allow you to tell them what to do with their country. You know, and that's strange. It's a level of insult that it's been shown to us by these so-called brothers. Moderator, you say right if you say the so-called, because they are so-called brothers. They are not brothers. No brother in this world will do what they are doing to our kids and into our country at large. You know, it's not all them selling powder. They are hijacking the buildings in our country, and by them hijacking these buildings, they see the loopholes in the government and the corruption that is in our government. That's why it's easy for them to say, tell the police. But if we had a government with proper police department, they wouldn't come here and tell you to tell the police. They said tell the police because they know they can bribe their way out of of whatever crime they've committed with those police. You know, he has said nothing about the incident that happened in Cape Town when one of the people, following what you were saying, police went and arrested a Nigerian who was selling powder. They called each other and they went to the police station, assaulted the police, wanting their brother to be released. And is that what they want? So when the police come in, they fight with the police. So why is saying we must call the police? And who is he to tell us how to run our country? Honestly speaking, who is he? Guys, I'm just getting tired of these people. I'm seriously getting tired of them. And remember, when we talk about mass deportation, they are the first one to say, no, this is xenophobic. They've done that twice. Twice they've done that as Nigerians. Twice they've done that. And there was nothing wrong with them doing that. You know, and it's so strange. And
Mboweni, twice they've done it, and so many countries do it to them, but they don't get the title of xenophobia or being xenophobic.
Exactly, my brother. That's they gaslighting us all the time, and we must understand. And they must wait. I like what they come and do here in our lives. They must wait until we get a proper government in the office as South African, and we're going to show them that we have laws and we have the police that will be uncorruptible when it comes to their issues. Because the worst thing that we have in this country is the corrupt police who take bribe from these guys, and you'll see the way they behave. They have no respect for our police, none whatsoever. You know why? Because they bribe them. And that's where our police lose power to deal with them when they do all these nasty things that they do in our country. And me, guys, I'm one of those people that I'm saying, let us push for mass deportation. Let's push for changing the current government that doesn't speak to what we are saying. Even the majority of political parties that we have in South Africa, they say they represent us, but they actually don't. Because the minute they go to the parliament, they allow all these things to happen. All these nonsensical things that are happening. You spoke about 5 million as a deposit, as an investment deposit when we want to do business in South Africa. 99% of them, they never paid this 5 million. And the business that are running, you can't pay 5 million and come and run a spaza shop. You can't pay 5 million and come and run a papa. And sell fake clothes, and you pay 5 million. It can't be so, because you'll be documented. Our government will follow what kind of products are you selling. Is it allowed to be sold in South Africa, and so forth and so forth. And even worse, you know, there's this clothes that they are selling that they get in Europe as part of giving to Africa, donated. They come here and they sell them in South Africa. There's nothing these guys that are doing that is beyond, is above the table. Or everything that they do is under the table. And we had enough of them, and they can say whatever they want and insult us all they want. But hence you said, this is a ticking bomb. And it's very close to just, you know, zoom out of everyone. And that's the day they will understand that we are human beings and they must respect us as South Africans. Let me land there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mboweni.
is it possible for me to just add on to something that he said when he said this is going to be a war? Guys, there won't be a war. These are just mental gymnastics, and it's a situation where they'll say there's a war. He was lying when he said there's going to be a war. A person that knows war will not advocate for war if he knows what war is. South Africans are still young. We're 30 years old in regards to this entire freedom thing, and we have to fix a whole lot of things. The reason why the law is set up the way it's set up is because we know those transgressions, we know the pain, we understand what war is, and we do not advocate for war. So the deportation will happen without war. That's why I'm saying when things actually hit and the pin drops, he won't understand what's right, what's left. Because at that particular moment, South Africa will say, you know what, this is what the law is, and we're actually implementing this. South Africans are empathetic. We reserve a whole lot of empathy because we've been through a lot. Irrespective of which generation you're within the generation of freedom right now, and you will possess a level of empathy. If you manage to cross the border via someone who was at the border post and you're carrying a child and what, it's not because the South African wanted money and they were empathetic. They said, you know what, go try and figure out life within South Africa, but don't commit crimes, but do it the right way. And they resort to crimes and they advocate for crime. That's where my qualms is when I sit within the situation. In Nigeria, when you look at companies like GZ just got acquired, we paid a price to trade there. When Checkers is in Nigeria, we paid a price to be there. But our price when we actually there, we actually bringing in value to Nigerians. When we look at Heineken Nigeria and the relationship that they have with Heineken South Africa, it brings a benefit to Nigerians within Nigeria. We pay the price to trade there. We paid the price to actually have an MTN there. And they're benefiting off of that. We pay taxes within their country. We employ Nigerians. We do all sorts of stuff. It is wild. It is wild for someone who's at a lower level, a lower tier of business, lower level. You hear it within the conversation. You're like, you know what? This is low level business. As much as it's money and we all have to respect everybody's professions and whatnot. But it's low level. It's not even mid tier. When we discuss things, we're like, yeah, you know what, where's your 5 million? If you want to open a spa, you want to do this. Oh yeah, you don't have it. How do we know about such things? Oh yeah, these companies, this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Oh, this person came in as an expat into the country and the company is actually taking care of these documents and everything. He's actually here adding value. Does he understand some of the things that he actually says? Within my submission, I said, please think before you actually submit. Then he pulls through, he says, yeah, but there will be a war and it cannot happen. I'm like, you are rattling the cage. And when the beast comes out, South Africans say, you know what, we're shutting everything down. We're actually deporting you guys today. There was a mass deportation in Canada. Was there war? Deportation is nothing when we actually say, you know what, we have to focus on this, but we have so much of a huge industry, it can't even be questioned. I think there's 100 and something million Nigerians in Nigeria, and there's a couple of South Africans. I'll cap it maybe on 60 million. There's 60 million South Africans, but the GDP is of the same equivalence that's compared to a country that has 180 million people. Then you want to advocate from your country where you have more people, more land, more everything, but you're producing the same as us. All of a sudden, you're the smartest guy in the room. How the hell does that make sense? When we're producing more at less. If you were to sit within a room and say, you know what, which one would you choose? You'll say, you know what, I'll take the one that actually has less, but it yields a bigger reward. And that is South Africa. So why is he trying to instill a bullet within our intellect and it doesn't resonate with us? That's why I always, when I see a conversation that's like this, I'm like, guys, do not waver. Do not even take or change your train of thought. You're within the right train of thought. And the wheels of justice will normally move slow based off the pain that we actually came from. But once we fix it and we fix it completely, we're now within a situation where we'll say, oh yeah, no, these things can't happen. It's even a no-brainer. He's within the country to actually exploit. But when we sit within a conversation and we say, let's get intellectual, let's actually discuss the law, what you are exploiting and what you find is a problem. I'm not going to resolve the conversation to a bribe or a cool drink. I'm smarter than that. I'm like, no, that's not, the law isn't a cool drink. The law goes further than that. When you're within court, you actually, this is what you said. You advocated and you said, no, we don't learn within our country. We actually find people within SA. That means that you're a perpetrator of this crime. You've just admitted to the crimes. As much as you've learned it from South Africans. Learning it from South Africans is irrelevant. You were a catalyst to this entire problem. He doesn't see that. That's what the conversation is about today. We're like, you know what? Is there a conversation amongst Nigerians that they actually speak about being a catalyst to crimes? And why? I said the law's intertwined. If you don't have the 5 million, that means you can't conduct business because you couldn't get the 5 million within your country. That means you're never a businessman. And then you think you're going to thrive within South Africa as much as you see us lazy. Then you don't. What's your next resolve? What's the solution? It's drugs. It's drugs, my brother. We see this in business day in, day out. You look at your spaza shops, this bomb that is exploded.
Powder.
Oh, sorry. It's the powder.
F1 comment section, F1, please.
Sorry about that. You actually go to powder because you don't have business acumen. Now, when that happens, we see it within the spaza shops. They'll pull through with their networks and what. But business dictates that they can't sell. You have to resort to selling rotten food. You were never a businessman. That's what I love about the whole 5 million thing. They're like, no, come in, sit with us, 5 million, look at the industry. Oh, this industry, you can't actually get into this industry as much as you might have 5 million. Not every industry is open to every country. They'll tell you this industry is actually just for South Africans. We don't actually want your business. We appreciate it, but we don't actually want it. Same as when he said, he was like, you know what, they bring in clothes and what. That's undermining the clothing and textile industry. Your malls are going to shut down. People who actually make clothing, those companies are going to shut down. One person, one bale, when they come in and they place it there, you've actually crippled an industry. They have to think before they speak. They have to think. That's the only thing I advocate for. When somebody hops on a panel and they're from Nigeria and they hear that, you know what, these people are heated and there's a level of pain within the things that they actually say. You have to think of what you're going to say. You can't tell us that I have to understand it and I have to see it because I'm a Nigerian. I'm not going to understand Nigerian culture in South Africa. That's insane. That's me going to a Chinatown and saying, you know what, I'm trying to understand Mandarin or how Chinese people think in South Africa. They'll say, that's stupid. Go to China if you really want to understand.
Please land, my brother.
It's insane, but people shouldn't waver from their train of thought and how they actually perceive the entire thing. It is what it is, and it isn't. There's no level of education that's needed, and what right is right, wrong as well.
To inform you that I'm Nigerian and I currently live and work in Russia. I have been to South Africa so many times. But first of all, we don't just have to come to a conclusion of the crimes that are going on. The first thing we should work on, because the essence of this discussion is to find a solution, not just to come and talk. So first of all, let me use myself as an example because of my experience in South Africa. Most of the time I have been there were just majorly for visits. And usually it takes like 2 to 3 days to get a visa from Nigeria. Now, I think the problem we are having now is the borders. From Nigeria to South Africa, the major problem is the borders, because if people are not permitted or were not granted entry into the country, it will be very easy to control the crimes, irrespective of the country you have come from. Now, the first problem I think we foreigners usually have in South Africa is visa, because no Nigerian came into South Africa from the sea or from the road. Everybody flew into South Africa with a visa. But the problem is visa extension. I've been privileged to get visa extension 3 times in South Africa, because it's usually a multiple entry visa, and even if you are coming with 1 year visa, at the port of entry, the immigration will stamp you to spend just 30 days, and which you are qualified to apply for extension. But after a very long time, they stopped granting visa extension to foreign, let me say Nigerians precisely, because I've experienced that before. So now, when we can't get visa extension, we can't renew the document. Of course, you expect people to leave. But in a case where people come to South Africa with the mindset of trying to set up a business, believing that you can get a business visa to invest, like my brother said earlier, that 5 million is the target. I understand that. Most Nigerians who come into South Africa, most of them, sometimes they have to sell their properties so they can raise a lot of money to start something in the new country they are going to. Not just South Africa, we have so many of them in UK and all those countries like that, that they have to sell whatever they can gather to be able to use the money to start something good in that country. So as I speak with you now, it has gone so bad that people can even come to South Africa even without a visa. What do they usually do? There's usually this plug at the airport where they can make you come, and without visa, this particular officer would be on duty on that particular day to grant your access to the country without even a visa. It has gone that bad. So for that reason, it's opened the country, it exposes the country to a lot of, not just powder. There are so many businesses illegal people are doing, not just Nigeria, in any part of the world. And I must tell you, I enjoy South Africa because all my friends that I made in that country, they are South Africans. And because of that, I have been able to connect most of them, even to Russia, by that relationship. Because when I came to South Africa, first time in 2012, my friend was Tammy. I brought all our Nigerian attires and we went to a party. I had to give him one to wear. And other friends who saw us at the party were also interested. We were ordering more from Nigeria. You get what I'm saying? So I have been to South Africa so many times. I have good experience with South Africans. But in recent times, we realized that people are not really taking us for who we are anymore. They are making it look like everyone who comes to that country is coming in the agenda of committing a crime or the other. But I think what we should focus more now is to tightening the borders, the process, because if people even come in, the government should make it easier for them to regularize themselves in the country by granting them the necessary document visa if they are qualified for it. I have friends who are married South Africans with kids. They are doing very well, and believe me, till now they are still on visa. The virtue of being married and having kids have not granted them the permission to get a proper document that even permit them to go home and come back conveniently. So for that reason, I just want to see if it is possible that whoever is qualified, it does not really have to be on a 5 million investment basis. There are other categories that people should look into. I think that alone will even, if people are have the right papers to live in the country, I think it will even reduce the rates of whatever sort of crime you can call it. So because I said 5 minutes, I think I have to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother, and thank you for sticking within the time. My brother, I hear what you're saying, but I also still have a problem with what you're saying. I think one point of correction that I do have for you there is that, yes, we do understand the distance between South Africa and Nigeria, just like with South Africa and Pakistan. And what we've discovered with a lot of Nigerian people who are here illegally, that they would normally fly or go to the closest country which Nigeria has very close relations with, and then they'd either drive to South Africa or go or just come in illegally through South Africa. So it's not only through the air or through airports that illegal people do come to South Africa. It's the same thing we've seen with Pakistanis. They either go to Lesotho or Swaziland, where I believe they do share a visa-free travel. And then because of our borders being so poorly guarded, then they just walk across to South Africa. And I think the second thing to that is that I think let's not try and, not that you did, but we shouldn't ever try and justify criminality. Even though sometimes it not may be your fault. Like if you are in South Africa and you're waiting for your documents to be processed, and because of one reason or the other, one being a backlog, sometimes being our outdated systems that we cannot do it timelessly. But the law does state that if you are past a certain date, which you have been notified that you need to leave the country, I think you should take it upon yourself to leave and then try other means of trying to come back to South Africa or into the country. Because once you have overstayed your visa stay, then you are just seen as a criminal, and then basically then there you forfeit every right that you have that you would have been basically protected by the South African law. My friend Derek is telling me to shut up. My brother, please come up. I'd like to engage with you. Don't be a coward there behind the comment section. You can come up and then we can talk. Because I don't like to deal with what do they call the comment warriors. I want you to come here and to discuss this man to man. If you are a man or a boy or whatever you are. But yeah, other than that, Dr. Dave, I think it's a very good submission. Does anyone have a question or comments for Dr. Dave? Okay, I take the silence to be that no one wants to engage. Mr. Grant, how are you doing? And thanks for waiting.
Not gonna be long, my leader. Now the message I was trying to spread earlier on was that, especially this Derek, the one who's talking to you now in the comments, that's his usual argument and many others. Now the message I like to say about issues such as criminality and all that is that, impact and severity and the cost of damage play a role, which is one of the problems you're complaining about in South Africa. For instance, there are probably 1 million incidents of people being slapped every day, and versus probably 1,000 incidents of rape or 20,000 incidents of unaliving. Where do you think we are going to focus? We won't care about 1 million incidents of people being slapped and all that. Now, those are some of the things they should be thinking about. The issue of powder as well. It doesn't matter whether it's 50 cases or whatever, or 5 Nigerians being arrested for that, but the fact that the impact and the damage, families are being lost, people lose their minds, futures are being destroyed because of that, communities are being destroyed. That's exactly what you are complaining about. And now it doesn't make sense for someone to come here and gaslight us and telling us that who's committing more crimes and all that. And in addition to that, repeat crimes. I always say for every 100 incidents of crime, there are probably 5 or 7 people involved. It doesn't mean there are 100 people involved for every 100 incidents of crime. Meaning, people who sell powder, they don't sell it once a month or once a year. And it could be the same 20, 30 people who are doing it. They don't sell it once a year. People who do rape or robberies, they don't do it once a year or once in 10 years. Those are repeat crimes. And they are mobile. They moving sometimes from one area to another, as we've seen, even with some of the powder dealers, where they are arrested in a certain area, they bribe their way to freedom, then they move to another area and all that. That's the problem we are sitting with. And secondly, we emphasize every day that we have limited resources in South Africa, meaning if Nigeria is a population problem or China, it's not a South African government problem, because our government can only budget based on the limited number of the citizens that they are able to handle. And therefore, for someone to be saying whenever another African one is looking for greener pastures, now suddenly they should be in South Africa and all that, that's one of the problems you are sitting with, especially if the government is still not able to take care of its own citizens. For instance, I like to talk, I'm glad that Commander Josh is here. I like to talk about our Bill of Rights. Among the sections there, or losses, stuff to do with protection and sexual abuse. But we see a high incidence of GBV, and sexual abuse in this area, and rape. People are not being protected. And as citizens, we seem to have normalized that. We seem to have accepted that is a way of life. That's how things are happening in the country and all that. And now that's one of the other problems we are dealing with. Now we are saying our government is not performing according to our expectations, or as they promised when they go around during voting, when they want our votes and all that. They promise, they don't deliver. In addition to that, now we have to deal with the issue of not being protected as citizens, not being protected enough as taxpayers, meaning we are underserved. by either the policing or the government of the day, which is why we're having the low rate of arrest and conviction of criminals. And now look at the psychological effect of that in society. It means it tells a criminal that you can commit crime and you have a higher chance, probably 80% chance of getting away with it, not being arrested and all that, especially if you are not documented, especially you committing crime in an area where there are probably no witnesses or no cameras or anything to document you, which is not fair for citizens who are documented in the country. It doesn't matter whether they are local or foreigners who are here contributing at the invitation of government or probably in private sector and all that. Now, these freeloaders, the other problem is that you, Dr. Dave, we have a problem with bringing people who are not properly vetted. We don't have robust vetting systems of people who are leaving other countries to relocate to South Africa. That's why many of the criminals, international, by the way, not only Nigerians, not only Black X or the 419 criminals, many of the filth from Eastern Europe and Nigeria as well, like Black X, have been found in South Africa now. That's one of the other problems. And we are fortunate if they haven't committed any types of crimes in South Africa. But guess what? We don't know, because we only know crimes that are likely to be reported, meaning crimes such as unaliving. Definitely, there's a high rate of reporting that. But the trafficking and people disappearing, those are some of the crimes that we don't know. And when someone has disappeared, we don't know whether it's still a crime or not, because the family will only know, go and report that so-and-so Commander Josh is missing. But we don't know whether he's been kidnapped or whatever. And in addition to that, you don't look at the stats of prisoners in South Africa then say majority are South Africans, because the problem is here. I can make the same arguments that Nigerians are making, that our prison population is around 150,000. And we have over 60 million South Africans in the country. Now you look at in relation to the population, now immediately you realize that there's a lot less men and women who are in prison because of crime relative to the population. And in addition to that, we know that some people, because of being poor, they can't afford to bails and all that, because some of the people in prison haven't been convicted yet. They are just awaiting trial for years and years, some of them. And because they can't afford a simple bail, that's when they are there. And in addition to that, you may be having hundreds of powder sellers from Nigeria who are still outside, not arrested yet, because crime doesn't stop, or you only look at it only when people have been arrested or it has been reported. These are crimes that are happening where someone is still busy selling powder and they haven't been arrested. Someone might be raping people or doing robberies. They haven't been arrested. And those are some of the other issues that you are dealing with in the country. So it's not correct, again, for anyone to come and gaslight and tell us, who is committing crime more than what. So as I conclude, as I learn, I think it's important for African governments to assist us. We can't emphasize this enough, that people, governments and leaders in various countries should be able to build a future that their people are looking for, build the greener pastures that their people are looking for in various South African countries, as well as South Africa and all that, because you don't multiply a cake by cutting it into many, many smaller pieces, but we need to build more and more cakes, and that building of more cakes should be happening in various other countries. I always say to your Nigerians and others that Zimbabwean economy is struggling. Other countries' economies are not struggling, but they are small. They are starting off a low base, like Botswana, Namibia, and all that. Now, if you are the real Pan-Africanist that you want us to accept in South Africa, why are you not going to those countries to go and uplift the economies? Because you've got the skills that they most likely require. Because South Africa is producing, by the way, over 40,000 graduates per annum. Meaning it's more graduates. We're producing more than, I think, the 5 SADC countries combined, including Zimbabwe, by the way. And therefore, let people go where there's a need, where they'll be able to make the biggest impact, especially starting off a low base and all that. Rather than here, the resentment always coming from the fact that we take our kids to medical schools for 7 years. They do engineering and various other things. The next thing, guess what? Once they graduate, there are no jobs. But now you see a lot of Zimbabweans and Nigerians or Pakistanis or whatever who are medical doctors, but not even Pakistanis. But those are the kinds of things. And I'm not saying we don't want migrants in South Africa, and I'm not saying we don't want the fact that with fields such as medicine, for instance, we know very well that Sometimes the skills you get in South Africa, you are able to live and apply them in Nigeria at some point. And I know even the British sometimes in the US, they bring some of their medical doctors here for probably 2-3 years to learn about certain tropical diseases and other things. So I'm saying let people understand that understand us in that context. The resources are limited here, and unfortunately, our economy does not justify an influx that you are seeing in South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. I think we have a very important guest here, Derek. Derek has been.
Sorry.
Good evening, everyone.
No, hold on. We'll give you an opportunity. I'm just saying that I'm just alerting everyone the fact that you are here. I think we'll give Dr. Dave the right of response because I felt like some of the things were addressed to him, and then we'll move on to the rest of the panelists. Yeah, Dr. Dave, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you again for the privilege. What I would like to add or to say about what my brothers have said is that, first of all, I want you to know that it will be very difficult or even impossible for a foreigner to commit a crime in your country without the help, the support, and aid from the citizens or even from some top government officials. What am I saying? I am saying those who are into selling and buying of these powders, you know, it will be very difficult for a foreigner to just come into your country and automatically they are into this business. They have connections with some, let me say, law enforcement officers who make them do this thing conveniently. And like I said something the first time I spoke, I said the border system have been compromised. Some people, with what is stand now, people can easily commit crime and leave the country without being noticed. Like I said, even from the port of entry, the people have connections whereby without having the right documents, even if you have overstayed your visa, you should be bound for at least 5 years. But they have this network at the airport where they can just take you out without being banned. And the same way you have left the country, the same way you can come back. So the whole system has been corrupted, not because these people, because let's say, okay, we accept that crime is ongoing and this is usually from foreigners or let's say Nigerians, but you will agree with me that the system itself is part of the crime because they give them the enabling environment for them to carry out these operations without being noticed. So if we accept that our people are the ones we have been accused of so many of these crimes, but you also have to accept on your own part that your own officials too are also they are also partners in this crime. So conclusively, there is no way we can justify this whole situation if we do not accept that this crime is being committed by South Africans, officials, and foreigners. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Dr. Dave, if I may, has there ever been any South African who said that our police, our politicians are not part of the problem? Have you heard?
Yes, I heard that, but when you are talking, always mention it because the discussion every time has always been the crimes committed by Nigerians. But when you're talking about the crime, also talk about the involvement and the support they are getting from this South African system that make it easy for them to commit the crime. That's my point.
All right. But I think this thing is twofold, and please look at this as dynamically as possible. First of all, if you are a foreigner in a country, you have signed an agreement. You have agreed that you're going to abide by the laws of the country, regardless of how many loopholes we see and how many flaws we see on the according to those laws or on those laws of the country. Your job as a foreigner is to not exploit them, is to not capitalize, by them and stuff like that, right? So I think it is null and void what you are saying, because for the fact that you are here, because the country is doing you a favor by allowing you to come to their shores for whatever reason. So if you are intelligence enough to see flaws and stuff like that, we require you, or the hosting country requires you to be of higher moral standing to not exploit those loopholes or whatever you see. So even if you see that our policemen are being bribed, or policemen are part of the problem, or politicians are part of the problem, by you coming to the country, you've agreed that you're going to abide by the laws. And just because the country that you feel like it's quite easy to commit a law doesn't give you a right to commit a law. That's one. And second of all, I think I had a second point to this. I can't really remember. Just had I didn't write it down. Yeah, oh yeah, and I think the biggest problem that we have here, and the reason why it always seems like it's a South African Nigeria thing, is that whenever we see our policemen that are not helping our cause and actually are an enemy to our cause, we treat them or we deal with them in a decisive manner as citizens.